Hello, and thank you for joining me on my program. I have something that I think many of you will be interested in today. How many of you have been praying, Lord, I want to be in your will. I want to know what your will is for my life. Well, I have a message today that will be speaking on the will of God, and I prepared it. It's called God Prepares Us First. God prepares us, folks, before He ever sends us out. And what brought this on is I was having my own time of prayer. God, I want to be in the middle of your will. I want to know what you want me to do. I want to go where you want me to go. I don't want to go over here if you're wanting me over here. Show me, Lord. Well, let's just look and see how Jesus, He gave us the perfect examples. It was the 12 disciples. They were the first ones that followed Jesus to find their ministry. And if you will remember, everyone that He went to, the first thing that He told them was what? Follow me. Follow me. Well, yeah, but that's just, sure, and I'm following Jesus. He says, just follow me. Just follow me. So, if we want to be in the will of God, the first thing we need to do is obey the Lord, love the Lord with all of our heart, mind, and soul, trust the Lord, and back again, obey the Lord. His first command is follow Him. Don't look to your left, don't look to your right. Follow Him. He says, if you'll follow me, I'll make you fishers of men. That is the field that He's taking us into. So if we even want to know, where is He leading me? As I follow Him, He's going to be taking me where I can become fishers of men. So their journey began. They followed Jesus. And the first thing I was watching as I read the book of Matthew, that they seemed to be, their first day of training, was Jesus sitting on the mountainside and teaching the Beatitudes. You know, He was teaching, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the poor in heart, for they shall see God. The disciples are not speaking here, and there's no miracle performed at this point. It is a teaching time. Jesus is teaching the disciples as well as the people. You see, what Jesus is giving the disciples is a fundamental we believe. This is basic, disciples, pay attention. As He spoke to the hillside, the multitude, the disciples had their ears open. There was two things going on. One, He was teaching them information they needed if they were going to go out and minister as well. But two, He was teaching them to listen to His voice, to hear the sound of His voice. Have you heard the sound of the Father's voice today? Are you tuned in to hearing Him when He speaks? They were to begin to learn to just listen to Him. Now then, the next thing I watched as I read was that Jesus gave them a personal miracle. A personal miracle. He took them out in the water, and then in the boat, and we know that the wind and the waves and the seas began to come and hurl that boat back and forth, and they became so anxious and nervous that they ran down and woke up Jesus. And we know that He had the wind and the waves to be still, and they said, what kind of man is this? They were beginning to understand that this man, Jesus, was to be respected and understood as lordship. He was greater than they ever imagined because He did something personal for them. But before they got in the boat, this is what Jesus showed me as I was studying this. The personal miracle was wonderful, but there was something greater and bigger that He had said. He said, we're going to the other side. And I want you to just concentrate on the words, He said. Now, each of us, when we want to be smack in the middle of the will of God, And we say, Father, I'll follow you wherever you go, and whatever happens, I'll follow you. And about that time, a storm hits. It's not fun. And we want to run to Jesus. But he said, what? We're going to the other side. I want you at that point in your storm to go back and recall the last thing Jesus told you. What did he say? Did he tell you to go and do something, that you're going someplace? What did he tell you? Don't let the storm distract you from what he said. Whatever he said is still in effect. Always in the midst of your storm, run back to the last thing he told you. Continue on with he said. Do what he said. The storm Jesus can handle. You do what he said. Next, after the personal miracle and the understanding that we are to go and he will do whatever he said, we know that there was the triumphal entry. That's found in Matthew 21 and verses 1 through 3. Jesus led the disciples by directives and assignments. Now, when they drew near Jerusalem and came to Bethphage at the Mount of Olives, then Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, Go into the village opposite you, and immediately you will find a donkey tied and a colt with her. Loose them and bring them to me. And if anyone says anything to you, you shall say, The Lord has need of them, and immediately he will send them. Jesus gives us very explicit directions when he sends us on a mission. Go into this town, do this, say this, bring this. And if anyone asks you, tell them what I said. You see, not what you think, but what I said. So he was teaching the disciples to, step by step, do exactly what he said. And they were watching. Everything he said was exactly the way it was. Now, there's another piece that just sort of, I'm going, oh, where have I been? Why didn't I see this before? And it is in the book of John, the wedding, the feast at the wedding, and where they run out of wine. You see, part of this disciples' training, and this is all about God preparing us first, the disciples getting their training. We, point my finger right here, we want to be smack in the middle of the will of God and do what he tells us to do. Jesus' very first miracle, folks, the disciples did not do anything except watch. Now, for me, if somebody wants to teach me how to do something, the first thing I say is, well, let me watch you, and then I'll try it. Let me watch you, and then I'll try it. Here was a miracle. The disciples watched. When Mary told Jesus, the host is out of wine, she then turns to the servants of the host. She didn't turn to his disciples. She turned to the servants and said, you do whatever he tells you. The disciples are watching and paying attention. They are watching a miracle. We know Jesus did perform the miracle, but he showed them, one, that he had the authority and the power, and all they needed to do was just be paying attention right now, follow him. He took them places. He gave them built-in experiences. Watch your life. Is he taking you places when you look back at yesterday? Is he teaching you step by step? Now, we know that he gave them fundamentals on the Beatitudes and the teachings that he wanted them to have. It's all found in the book of Matthew. Matthew 10:1. And when he had called his 12 disciples to him, he gave them power over unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal all kinds of sickness and diseases. You see, the day came when he gathered his 12 disciples to him, and they kind of graduated. They were ready for their next ministry level. He empowered them. Now let's look at Luke chapter 10, verse 1. After these things, the Lord appointed 70 others also, and sent them 2 by 2 before his face into every city and place where he himself was about to go. He then said to them, "The harvest truly is great, but the laborers are few. Therefore," here's what you're to pray for, he says, "therefore pray the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. Go your way. Behold, I send you out as lambs among wolves." And then we pick up in verse 17. Then the 70 returned with joy, saying, "Lord, even the demons are subject to us in your name." Verse 18, and he said to them, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Behold, I give you authority to trample on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. Nevertheless, do not rejoice in this," what I've just told you. Don't rejoice in that the spirits are subject to you, but rather rejoice because your names are written in heaven. Folks, it's much better to rejoice because we're a Christian and that we're one of God's children than to think we have power to go trample on Satan. God's already won that victory. I've only hit up on a few of the things that the disciples were taught by Jesus as they followed him. But I think it's so important that we understand that he told them what they would become when he first picked them up. "Follow me, and I will make you to become fishers of men." It's that becoming phase where we're listening, learning to hear his voice, reading his word, understanding him, listening to him. He is preparing us. He is building us up. And at some point he calls us and he empowers us to go out. And at that point he tells you where to go, what to look for, and what to say when you are asked. You will not go unprepared. This following time is precious. Stay close to the Lord. He will use you. The laborers are few. He needs you. He has directed each of us where our work is going to be is in the harvest. Into the fields is where he's going to send us. But he only sends us after preparing us. I pray that today you will rest in him, knowing that if you don't know the will of God, you're in it as you follow him. God bless you.
We hope you've enjoyed Fresh Manna for Today with Evangelist Dee Levens. For more from Dee, read The Long, Long Night, The Story of Destiny, and Echoes from God, a Christian study book for growing deep and strong in the faith. Connect with Dee and purchase her books at deelevens.com.